One team that had a pretty thrilling 2024 season was the Clemson Tigers. After falling behind early and getting steamrolled in Week 1 by Georgia, many thought the season was over. Instead, Clemson ended up going on a pretty cool run last year and ended up making the college football playoff. It was a pretty epic season for them, and they even gave Texas a run for their money while in the playoff. Ultimately, Clemson fell short of their goal of a national championship. They had a lot going for them last year, and looking ahead towards 2025, I think they're one of the best teams in college football. In today's video, we're going to start out my preview series for the 2025 college football season, as we're going to talk about the Clemson Tigers. We're going to go through last year, talk about what they have coming back, what they did in recruiting in the portal, and then I'm also going to give you a schedule breakdown. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you're going to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and preview the 2025 Clemson Tigers. Okay, going back to last year, Clemson had some really solid players, and they started out the season as one of the best in the country. In Week 1, they played against number 1 Georgia and got crushed 34-3. Many people thought the sky was falling, but ultimately they would bounce back. They destroyed Appalachian State, killed NC State, killed Stanford, and then also killed both Florida State and Wake Forest. They did kind of get tested a bit against Virginia, but all of a sudden Clemson was 6-1 and 5-0 in the ACC. Their next loss would come against Louisville, as they'd lose this game at home 33-21, and now they'd be playing from behind in the conference. Luckily though, they'd win their next 2 games, as they would beat both Virginia Tech and Pitt on the road, giving them a fighting shot at the ACC championship game. After beating the Citadel, they would await to see what Miami would do. After Miami lost to Syracuse, Clemson was now being given a spot in the ACC title game, so it didn't necessarily matter what they did against South Carolina. After leading late, South Carolina ended up going on the road to Clemson, and Lenora Sellers had a crazy late touchdown, and the Gamecocks won 17-14. Yes, Clemson ended up going 9-3 with a 7-1 mark, and was going to the ACC title game. If they beat SMU, they'd go to the playoff. After some late game drama, SMU would tie the game up at 31, but Clemson would storm down the field and hit a crazy long field goal and secure their spot in the playoff. SMU would also end up making the playoff, and the Tigers would be matched up with number 5 Texas in the first round. This was one of the closer first round matchups, and while they were always in the game, Texas ultimately shut the door and answered them each and every time. Clemson would end up going 10-4 with a 7-1 mark in the conference, and definitely had some really good players. Last season, they were led by star quarterback Cade Klubnik, who threw for 3,600 yards with 36 touchdowns. At running back, they had Phil Maffa, who ended up rushing for over 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns, and also had Jay Haynes and Keith Adams. In terms of their receiver room, there was a ton going on there. Antonio Williams led the team with 904 yards and 11 touchdowns, and he also had 75 catches. True freshmen Bryant Wesco Jr. and TJ Moore also broke out towards the end of the season, having nearly 700 yards and 5 touchdowns apiece. Jake Brenningstool was one of the best tight ends in the country, and on defense they also had some really solid players. Barrett Carter led the way with 82 total tackles, true freshman Sammy Brown was really solid, Avion Terrell had 12 pass deflections, and Khalil Barnes led the way with 4 interceptions. Oh yeah, and TJ Parker was really solid as a defensive lineman, registering 11 total sacks. The Tigers would end up having 3 players taken in the 2025 NFL Draft, as Barrett Carter would go in round 4 to the Bengals, RJ Mickens would go to the Chargers in round 6, and running back Phil Maffa went in round 7 to the Cowboys. Luckily, going into 2025 though, they still return a lot of their top players. In terms of the recruiting class, it ranked number 28 in the country and was headlined by 5-star defensive lineman Amari Adams. For the first time ever, Clemson also ended up having a couple of transfers, as they grabbed former 5-star Jeremiah Alexander from Alabama, 4-star edge rusher Will Helt from Purdue, and 3-star receiver Tristan Smith from Illinois State. Clemson does not typically dig into the portal. And then looking ahead towards their actual roster, there are a lot of guys who I'm super excited to watch. It starts with Cade Klubnik, who will be on his final season and will try to play his way into the Heisman conversation and a first-round draft pick. He will obviously be the starter, but also watch out for Christopher Vizina, who's been waiting his turn and will now be on year 3 as the backup. In terms of the running back spot, they obviously lost Phil Maffa, so they have a couple of options. Gideon Davidson is a freshman who's getting a lot of hype, but I suspect Jay Haynes will probably be the guy there. In terms of the receiver room, some believe they could have the best in the country as they return their star guy Antonio Williams, who will be back for his 4th season, and they also return both of their insane freshmen in Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore. Honestly, this is one of the most exciting receiver rooms in the country, and might personally be my favorite. Behind him, you also have senior Adam Randall, who's been waiting his turn. You'll have Tyler Brown, who's shown glimpse, and then guys such as Cole Turner and their transfer guy and Tristan Smith from Illinois State. In terms of the tight end spot, it'll be a 3-way battle for that to replace Brenningstool, but Olsen Pat Henry is the projected guy. On the offensive line, you'll have Tristan Lee, Colin Sadler, Ryan Linthicum, and then both Walker Parks and Blake Miller. Sorry if I ended up getting that wrong. In terms of the defense, they return one of the best defensive linemen in the country in TJ Parker, big-time 2026 draft prospect Peter Woods on the interior, and then both DeMonte Capehart and that Purdue transfer in Will Helt. That will be a ferocious defensive line. In terms of the linebacker spot, you'll probably have Wayne Woodez, Alabama transfer Jeremiah Alexander, and then true sophomore Sammy Brown, who was a former 5-star. Their leading pass deflection guy, Avion Terrell, will be back, and they'll probably pair him alongside Ashton Hampton and Jaden Lucas at the corner spot. At the nickel position, you'll probably see Khalil Barnes or Shelton Lewis, and Barnes can also play at that safety spot alongside Kylan Griffin and then Ricardo Jones. I'm not a Clemson fan, so if I got something wrong, be sure to let me know down below. But honestly, I have a couple guys who I'm super pumped to watch, as I think Will Helt is really going to shine. Sammy Brown is a future prodigy at that linebacker spot, and then I'm super excited to see Bryant Wesco at the receiver spot. Honestly, the biggest question mark for Clemson is going to be that running back position, but they have a couple of highly decorated and recruited players, and I think Jay Haynes, if he's the guy, will be totally fine. But how does this translate to on the field? Well, let's now take a look at their schedule. Well, when we take a look at their schedule, they get off to an interesting start, as they will play against LSU. LSU had a tremendous start to the 2024 college football season before falling off in the month of November and kind of flaming out. They returned Garrett Nussmeier and a couple of other big-time pieces, but they'll have to replace some of their top wide receivers, and I'm definitely curious to see if Nussmeier can take that next step. The defense will also have to be better, which is why I think Clemson will win this game. Sure, it's going to be really close, and it's going to be one of the best games of Week 1, but I think Clemson sort of beats them in most areas right now, and I'm going to pick the Tigers to be 1-0. Also, LSU always loses these games. That puts the Clemson Tigers at 1-0, and then in Week 2 they're going to play against Troy. Sure, Troy has pulled off a couple of upsets over the last couple of years, most notably against LSU, but that's not going to happen, as Clemson's going to steamroll them at home and get off to 2-0. In Week 3, they have somewhat of a tricky game, as they're going to play one of the toughest teams in college football, and that is Brent Key's Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Last year, Georgia Tech gave a lot of teams fits. You can ask Georgia about that, and they return Haynes King and their big-time running back, and a couple of other big-time pieces. I think Georgia Tech is super tough, and honestly, in my opinion, this is their second toughest game they have on the schedule. Maybe you think I'm crazy for that, but this game's going to be close. Ultimately, though, as I said, I think Clemson is really, really good this year. Cade Klubnik has plenty of experience, and while this game I think will be close, Clemson pulls away in the fourth quarter. All of a sudden, it is 3-0 for them. In Week 4, they also play a really well-coached team, and that will be Syracuse. Last year, under first-year head coach Fran Brown, the Orange had a blazing start, but I believe they lost their top 3 pass catchers, their star running back LaQuint Allen, and then Kyle McCord, who also got drafted. Syracuse has a lot to replace, and I somewhat think they were a little bit lucky last year, so in my opinion, there's no way that Clemson loses this game at home, unless Ricky Collins comes out of nowhere and is some sort of Heisman contender, which I highly doubt. Clemson's now 4-0. As we head into the month of October, they will go on the road to play against North Carolina. Bill Belichick should have the house packed for this game, but honestly, there's so much going on there that I have no idea what to make of North Carolina. Their quarterback situation right now is interesting, as they have a quarterback battle between Gio Lopez, Bryce Baker, and Max Johnson, and I think Lopez is going to be the guy, but I'm not really that high on this North Carolina team, to be honest. I think they're probably a 6 or 7 win team at best, and despite it being on the road, I'm going to go ahead and pick Clemson to win this one. Okay, another intriguing game is going to be on the road against Boston College, as that will happen just a week later. BC lost their quarterback Thomas Castellanos to Florida State, and they brought in former blue-chip quarterback Dylan Lonergan from Alabama. Bill O'Brien, I believe, recruited Lonergan while he was on the Bama coaching staff, so he'll probably have his guy, and this game will be interesting, but again, I think it'll be over by about halftime or the third quarter. The first half of the season is definitely interesting for them, and things don't necessarily get any easier or harder in the second half. For the 7th game of the season, they will play against SMU, and the last time these two teams faced off was the ACC Championship. For now, it looks like SMU will probably have a lot of momentum for 2025 as they return quarterback Kevin Jennings, but they have some question marks at the running back position. Who will catch passes for them, and was it just luck last year? There's too many question marks for me to really bank on SMU being that good this season, and I also think teams are going to figure them out, so I have Clemson beating them pretty easily, and this game is also at home. After that, they'll play a team that's been on the rise over the last few years in Duke, but once again, I don't know what to make of this Duke team. They had Riley Leonard 2 years ago, last year they had Malik Murphy, and now they have their $8 million quarterback from Tulane, Darian Mensah. But they lost their top pass catcher in Eli Pancol, and their top running back ended up transferring over to Tennessee, so Duke's going to have to find some new replacements. I don't think they're going to be a 9-win team again, and I think Clemson wins this game. Honestly, I think Clemson is the better team in every matchup this season, and it doesn't change against Florida State. As we now get into the second weekend of November, they'll play against the Seminoles at home, and while 2 years ago this game might have been a big deal, there are way too many question marks for the Noles as well. In terms of the Noles quarterback room, they're going to have Tommy Castellanos, and they also have some question marks at the running back, receiver, and the defensive side of the ball. I have no idea what to make of Florida State this season, but I don't think they're going to be that good, as probably 6 or 7 wins, just like UNC. This game's at home, and Clemson, in my opinion, now gets to 9-0. They play a lot of Power 4 teams on this schedule, and now we get to what, in my opinion, is the third hardest game of the season, and that will come on the road against Louisville. Last year, if you remember right, the Cardinals ended up beating them in Death Valley, and that was definitely a shocker. Their second-round quarterback Tyler Shuck is now gone, but they return their logjam of running backs, have Jeff Brom's high-flying offense, and former USC quarterback Miller Moss is looking to be the third transfer quarterback in a row that works out for them. I think Louisville is going to be tough, but Clemson steals this game on the road and keeps their season alive at 10-0. After that, they'll come home for their FCS beatdown against in-state foe Furman, and that will get them to 11-0 for what, in my opinion, is the toughest game on the schedule, and the game I'm most looking forward to, their road matchup with South Carolina. Somehow, someway, in the last 3 years, the Gamecocks have beaten Clemson twice at home. One time in 2022 with Spencer Rattler, and last year with their redshirt freshman quarterback Lenora Sellers. Sellers, in my opinion, is the most exciting quarterback in the SEC next year, as I'm totally thrilled to watch him, and the Gamecocks have a lot of hype. Can Shane Beamer get them to the playoff? I don't know. Will they be in contention for the playoff at this point in the season? I think so. One thing though is that Clemson dominated this series for quite some time, so for me, it's hard to see them dropping 3 of 4. Personally, I think this game will be extremely difficult for them to win on the road, but I'm going to pick it. Yeah, I may sound crazy having Clemson go 12-0, especially after the last couple of years, but I truly think the Tigers are good enough for it. I think they have a top 3 quarterback in college football who knows how to control the game and knows this system. They also have, in my opinion, one of the most exciting receiver cores in the nation, as I love all 3 of their top options, and Clemson always has a good tight end. At running back, they'll have to step up a little bit, but ultimately I think they'll be fine. And then also their offensive line is solid, and their defense should be really good. Their defensive line honestly could be one of the best in all of college football next year. I really like their linebacker core, and their secondary should also do the trick. But is that enough for Clemson to win 12 games? I don't know. They play against 10 Power 4 teams on this schedule, so honestly, it is kind of far-fetched for me to pick them to win all 10 of them. But at the same time, there's not a particular matchup on that schedule that I truly think is better than them. Honestly, I have them predicted to go 12-0 in this video, but I would not be surprised if they go 11-1. Some team I think is going to get them at some point, but it's not going to stop them from getting to the ACC Championship and ultimately the college football playoff. I think this is the best Clemson football team of the last 4 years, and I think they have a real chance of going on a run. I would personally pick them to go all the way to the final 4 teams, and it would depend on the matchups, but I expect them to at least win 1 game in the playoff this year and be the top team in the ACC. I honestly wasn't all that excited about Clemson the last 3 or 4 years, but this time I am. I think they're going to be super exciting to watch. I think they finally figured out the offense, and the hiring of Tom Allen on defense should help them become even better and also more elite. We'll have to wait and see though, but for now, Clemson's my top team in the ACC, and based on right now, I have them going 12-0, but would not be shocked to see them go 11-1, or maybe even 10-2, depending on circumstances. The ACC is just so unclear right now. But what do you guys think? If you're a Clemson fan, what did I get right and wrong in my analysis? What is your take on the schedule? Who will be the top player? And what else do I need to know about this year's Tigers team? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.